I'm just getting off of work, but I have my camera with me, so I'm just going to show you some of downtown.
Downtown New Orleans, to be precise, and welcome. Here in New Orleans, unique is what we do best, from our signage to our architecture and everything in between. And plus, New Orleans just recently turned 300 years old, which means it has tons of history. So let's start somewhat at the beginning. In the beginning, at least for the city, Native Americans had the land. But then French settlers came in galloping on their horses and took the city over. They coveted the area as New Orleans was an important port city. The Mississippi River gave them access to a multitude of states, as well as tobacco among other resources. So in 1718, they founded New Orleans. Cool effect, huh? I just learned how to do it. Oh, sorry, I'm being rude. I'm Ronald, nice to meet you. I was born in New Orleans and have lived here all my life. No, I don't have an accent. No, we don't all have an accent. This is just one of many misconceptions people have, and that's why I want to take you on a little tour of the city to tell you about it some. Because for me personally, one of the best highlights of New Orleans is the people itself. Or I guess I should say themselves, or whatever they identify as. How about that? And of course, the city has tons of charm to itself as well. Canal Street is definitely one of the areas for unique charm. Like our streetcars, which are located on the neutral ground. The neutral ground gained its name from being the boundary between the Creole side and the American side in the upriver area. Our streetcars themselves began to pop up in the 1860s, originally dragged by mule, which I feel bad about, but thankfully by the 1890s they had changed to electricity, and the mule got a break. Bourbon Street is obviously always a big tourist attraction. And it's for good reason, as this street is basically like Las Vegas and all sorts of party city rolled up into one in just a 6-block radius. Many of the homes in downtown New Orleans also have a lot of history and charm to them as well. And while on the subject of history and architecture, though colonized by the French, a lot of New Orleans architecture was actually made by the Spanish, which also adds to the uniqueness of our architecture.
It's been over a year now since Ida, and clearly most of the streets have come back to normal at this point.
After the most recent Hurricane Ida, New Orleans lost power for over a week, and the city very much became a ghost town. But thankfully, we're resilient here. And only a year later, things are looking somewhat closer to normalcy again. New Orleans is actually a really lucky city. It's been through 2 huge fires, multiple hurricanes like Katrina and again Ida, Betsy. It's a wonder that the city's still even here. But I think that's part of why I and so many other people love and cherish this city. When you look up at the balconies, at the architecture, and you think about the fact that it's so temporary, it just makes it seem that much more important. And there's so much romance to cherishing this city because honestly and sadly, we could be the new Atlantis someday. So it's nice to just know that you're here while it lasts. But on a happier note, we still have a lot of our gas lanterns, which is something that New Orleans prides itself on, cherishing and saving as much of the old as it can and preserving it for as long as it can. Because it's that same history that connects us to the history and the people that came before us. The ghost of buildings' identities left behind on new facades, remnants from people that lived literally 3 centuries ago in this city. Houses, architecture, ideas from people that lived hundreds of years before any of us did, but it's still here and we're still living in it just like any other day. I look at history movies and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess this stuff is old. And I never even think about it until I just think about it. Even our food has history to it. And though our police force is woefully understaffed, they do their best to protect it and our culture and our people, so I will give them credit for that. But it should also be said, while crime is getting worse in the city, the United States itself has a 70% increase in crime, so you need to check yourself before you check other people's world. But now that I've grounded you, pun intended, I want to take you to newer heights and show you the city from a higher vantage point. Because sometimes the best way to appreciate the beauty of a city is just to see it high up. And Canal Street is especially beautiful from up high. It's kind of our version of Melrose or Manhattan, but you know, a more humbled, low-scale version. The wharf from up here looks especially beautiful. But before I take you down there, I'm going to let you hear the steamboat's music play, but I'm going to be quiet so you can hear it.
wasn't that just special?
And now that you've gotten to see things from high up, I'm going to bring you back down so you can see things from the watery side of things. In other words,
I'm gonna take you down by the river.
and once again, I'll take a quick intermission from speaking so you can hear another of our street performers. One of two I'll delight you with today.
He wants to take me back to Muhlenberg town. Out by the
I love to come out here and just look at the water and the bridge and the city from this vantage. It's so beautiful here. And also, I love this lock thing. I know that they have one like it in Paris. I believe they have one like it in New York too. I think this is a thing a lot of states and places are doing now. So comment below too if you live in a place that does this, because I just think it's really sweet. Also, that's the steamboat in the background that you heard playing the music before. And the guy on the right hand side just waved. I hope you've been enjoying our tour of downtown. It's close to over, but first we're going to go back to Jackson Square so you can be entertained by another of the live jazz bands that was playing there at the time. And that's another thing I love about this city. Random things like this are just happening all the time for no reason. We're going to take a quick ride to Chef Highway to end our tour. But also on the way there, I just want to kind of point out the fact that New Orleans is a wonderful city and it has wonderful people. Again, I mentioned the crime and how it's rising everywhere, but New Orleans is actually a really great place. I've lived here all my life, and despite all of the disparaging things people like to say about the city, not all the time, but sometimes, it really is a wonderful place to live. I know even people that live here sometimes can have negative opinions about the city, and that's totally understandable. Every city in the world could use improvement. Like the US itself, like I said before, could use improvement, but it's an amazing city, and I have seen just as much bad happening everywhere else in the world as I have here, but I've never seen quite as much magic anywhere else as I have here. And I've lived other places, not lived, but I visited other places like Morocco, China, Greece, and I love them, but I love this city so much more, and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else permanently than New Orleans. And if you're going to take the opinion of the city from anyone, why not take it from someone who hasn't been run over by life, apparently? Because, again, sometimes people can be pretty harsh, but it's not worth all of that harshness. Like, again, it's a great city, but the best way to see is to experience. So try it out one day, because as far as I'm concerned, there's no place quite as amazing or unique as New Orleans. And if you're looking for a place with love, then look no further.